What's up you guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be filming a Halloween October kind of book video. I'm not really quite sure what I'm going to name this video, obviously, because I don't know what I'm trying to say. So every October for the last, I don't know, since 2009, 2010, when I used to be a really active book blogger, I decided to challenge myself in the months of October to read scarier or much more like books that I wouldn't really read throughout the year because I scare very, very easily and pair that along with anxiety. And well, I just didn't want to do that to myself. So I would always wait until October to do these reading challenges, and I would mix it in with like other paranormal books that I have been wanting to read for a very long time and just see how many of these that I could finish reading. And with this challenge, I actually discovered a lot of books I ended up loving, and a lot of books I ended up rereading like in the next years to come. Please ignore the ambulance that you can hear outside, the perks of living downtown. I really hope you heard all that because I don't want to go back and refilm it. So of all the years I have done this challenge, I decided to talk about the books that I loved the most throughout the years and the ones that I reread every October, or I try to reread every October. So the first book I'm going to talk about is Hex Hall by Rachel Hawkins. This book, before I decided to add it to my October TBR, one of the years, I don't remember which year, I actually did go ahead and read this. This had been on my TBR forever. Every time I went to Barnes & Noble, I always picked up this book, and I was always so intrigued by what it was about and the cover that it had and who is this cat. And so I finally decided to just read it one year, and I absolutely fell in love with this book. This book follows a girl named Sophie, and she does not know how to control her powers, so she ends up being sent to this place on a remote island called Heckgate Hall, which they all call Hex Hall. And she is roomed with the only vampire that they allowed in the school. And everybody, there's a bunch of other like paranormal kids that go there, like witches, warlocks, fairies, werewolves, shapeshifters, things like that. There's ghosts that roam around through the hallways and everything. And so she gets paired to be roommates with Jenna, who is the only vampire. And I loved Jenna and Sophie together and apart. I thought they were really snarky. They really made the entire book. And I loved Archer just because he was pretty snarky too. Every like character that I love in this book is really snarky. The plot twist that goes on in the first book was one that I was not expecting at all, and I absolutely loved how it took me by surprise, and I loved everything about it. So yeah. And then I went on to read Demon Glass, which I don't remember too much about this. I know she ends up having to do some stuff that the council kind of like figures out, and she's trying to like protect people or whatever, and her dad, and she gets sent somewhere else or something. I don't really remember. And the last book to this is Spellbound, which everything starts to wrap up, and I took forever to read this because I didn't want this series to end. I tend to do that. If I don't want a series to end, I sometimes hold off on the last book. And I did end up finishing this, and I don't really know how I feel. I don't really remember too much about the ending because this was years ago, but I do remember wishing there was more to it, or that there was a second part to this series or something, because I needed more. So that is the Hex Hall trilogy. The next book I'm going to talk about is Some Quiet Place by Kelsey Sutton. I was obsessed with this book when I read it. I believe I got this for review from NetGalley a long time ago. And this is about a girl named Elizabeth who, for some reason, she can't feel emotions. She knows she's supposed to feel emotions and things, but she just literally cannot, and she doesn't really know why she can't. She comes from a really broken home. This book is full of dark themes and abuse and really dark places, but the thing that I love the most about this book is the character named Death, who is technically who you think it is, but apparently he's friends with Elizabeth, and he comes and goes out of her life, and he kind of helps her to, I guess, make sense of things, but he's also really sarcastic and really snarky, so that's why I loved him so much. This book was really heavy, or heavier than Hex Hall, but I absolutely love this book. I love this cover, even though it's a little bit creepy. I really like the way it looks, and it was perfect to read during the fall. The next book I'm going to talk about is Unspoken by Sarah Reese Brennan, and they actually changed the cover to this book, which I really hate because I love this cover. It features Cammy on the front in a silhouette, and then the back of the book had featured Jared, so I thought that was really cool. The new cover is, I don't really like it at all. So this book I also got for, I don't know how to position this so that you can see it clearly. Is that good? Yeah. This book I got for review from NetGalley as well a couple years ago, and I absolutely fell in love with it. I don't own the physical copy because, like I said, I don't like the book covers. So yeah. But this book follows a girl named Cammy who aspires to be a journalist. She lives in a place called Sorry in the Vale, which I always thought was really weird. Like, it's Sorry dash in dash the dash Vale. And one day, I'm gonna put this down because it's a little awkward. So one day, the Lindburns decide to come back, and she doesn't know who these Lindburn people are because this is way before her time, and they had left before she even was born. But there's been talk about Sorry in the Vale of the Lindburns coming back, and so she needs to know who these Lindburns are and why everybody is freaking out over the fact that they're back, and why do people talk about that they rule Sorry in the Vale, or, you know, whatever. So Ash Lindburn decides that he wants to apply to be a photographer for the school journal, which she is the journalist head editor thing too, and through him she tries to get more information about his family, I guess, without, well, no, she just blatantly interrogates him because she clearly just doesn't care. But also, the thing about Cammy is that ever since she could remember, ever since she was born, she's heard a voice in her head that actually talks back to her named Jared. And I always thought that that was such an interesting concept, and how is this happening and all this other stuff, which they tell you all the stuff in the book because Jared is a real freaking person. And so you get hit with this like, whoa, what? But the journey that her and Jared and Ash and a couple of her other friends go on throughout this book is just so, like, I don't know, I love Cammy so much because she's just super snarky and sarcastic. I love Jared also because he is just as snarky and sarcastic, but more in a I don't give a fuck kind of way because he just doesn't like anyone. And so she's like this really hyper, like, tell me everything kind of person, and he's just this like, I don't really care about you, please get out of my face kind of person. And they just, like, their personalities just clash so much, but their sarcasm is like so intense. So yeah, I really enjoyed that book. I read the second book, which wasn't really as good as the first book, and I still to this day have not read the third book, which came out a crap ton of years ago, because I'm just not ready to let go of this series and this world. Though I think after 5 years I can probably let them go now. The next book I want to talk about is Amber House by Kelly Moore, Tucker Reed, and Larkin Reed. Shout out to Dark Fairy Tales. I am using the image that I guess is on your blog from probably a really long time ago because I don't have a physical copy of this book either. But this book follows a girl who I think has to go to a funeral somewhere in the South, and there is something about this house that calls out to her and wants her to find something that has been hidden or lost or something like that. And she gets zapped into seeing bits and pieces of the past and trying to figure out what they mean in the present. And this book it had like a couple of really scary parts to it in my opinion, but that's just because I scare really easily. But even though it had parts that would freak me out or would, like, you know, kind of like suspense me or whatever, the story was so interesting, and I really wanted to know what was going on, that like it didn't scare me as much, which doesn't typically happen. But yeah. There's also a second book in that series that I read, and I don't really remember much about what it was about, but I do remember the author reaching out to me and wanting me to be part of the blog tour for it a long time ago, which I thought was really cool, and I was really excited about that because I do love that book. And then there's a third book coming out sometime this year or next year or something. I don't really remember. I just know that I waited a long time for it, and I think I'm gonna have to go back and reread this series before I read the last book. The next book I'm going to talk about, even though you can't really see the cover, is The Vines by Christopher Rice. Yes, Christopher Rice. I read this book a couple of years ago, and this is also another book I got for review from NetGalley. Okay, also I kind of used the October Challenge as a way for me to finally read books off of my NetGalley list also that I was putting off, but that wasn't the entire reason why I came up with this challenge, though a lot of books that I did read and fall in love with were ones that I did get for review. This book follows a girl who I don't really remember, but these vines were going around snatching up people from like random places. Well, they were like snatching up people that were doing things within this property that they weren't supposed to be doing. There was a lot of like historical fiction that went on in this book. There was a lot of like family, like stories from this family that goes back years and years and years ago that I found really interesting. And the book itself, it didn't scare me, even though I was preparing myself to be scared. It was really interesting and really suspenseful. The last book I am going to talk about is Ghost House by Alexandra Adornetto, and I don't think I got this book for review. I think I actually picked this book, though I don't really remember. Don't quote me on that. No, I think I did get this book for review because it's published by Harlequin Teen, and back then I used to review a lot of their stuff. So yeah, I did get this book for review. And this book I was expecting to be afraid of because look at this cover. Say that's not creepy. It's called Ghost House, okay? Like, I was so sure I would be creeped out by this book, but I wasn't. I really, really enjoyed it. And this book is about a girl named Cleo, and she starts seeing ghosts after she loses her mother, so she moves to England to her grandmother's country estate, and she kind of just like tries to escape and tries to, I guess, like take a break from life and just spend time with family and things like that. And she ends up meeting this ghost named Alex, who wanders around the grounds and no one else can see him except for her, basically. I don't really remember what was the deal between her and Alex. I think Alex was trying to get her to uncover some kind of mystery, which seems to be a trend with ghosts and YA girls. So yeah, there were things also that happened in this book, and I really wish I could remember. No, I remember now. So there is another ghost that Cleo also sees named Isabel, who I guess is following around Alex for whatever reason. I can't spoil it because I don't remember, but I do remember that the end of this book was a giant mind fuck. It was like the biggest what the hell is happening thing that I have probably ever encountered in a book, and so for that reason I loved this. I mean, there's also this boy who is, I think, one of the horse keepers in her grandmother's estate, which I don't know his name, or I don't remember his name because they don't tell you what his name is in the synopsis, but he was also one of my favorite characters. He kind of had a thing for Cleo, and like he just had quotes for you. I remember quoting a bunch of stuff that he had said, and it's like back then I used to include quotes in my book reviews, and I remember the majority of the quotes were from him because he was hitting you with like life lessons and things, and like, hey, check out this perspective. So I really liked that about this book, and I really liked the dynamic between Chloe and Alex from what I remember. So yeah, I enjoyed this book a whole lot. It didn't creep me out, it didn't scare me, not like Amber House did. which was probably the only, like, no, Hex Hall had some creepy parts in it too, I'm not gonna lie, but they weren't that bad. The only thing is that this book, it has been years since this has been released, and I wish I could find a release date just so I can tell you. Okay, so this book was released in 2014, and I have been steady waiting for a sequel to it. I think this was supposed to be a trilogy or a saga, which I guess is a trilogy, I don't really know. So this book was released in 2014, and we had not heard anything about a sequel since then until now. And it turns out that Ghost House has been renamed into Lament, which I kind of like this cover a little bit better. I don't like that it's paperback, and I don't like that it's like a small paperback. Well, no, I guess they're the same size pretty much. I guess it just feels smaller because I was holding on to that hardcover. So it has been it has been renamed Laminate, which it clearly states formerly titled Ghost House on it. And there is a sequel that came out that I guess I just never noticed, and that sequel is called Haunted, which I have not read this one yet. This is on my TBR for this October, which I did not pick up just yet, which I thought I would pick this up first, but I didn't, and I keep forgetting to. So my TBR for this October is really not going that well, I'm not gonna lie. I finished one book this month so far, and it is the 25th of October. So yeah, I'm pretty much failing, which is why I decided that I am going to extend this challenge onto November, even though I have NaNoWriMo to do in November, but it's fine, it's cool, I'll make it work. So this is going to be what I'm going to read tonight, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to want to finish it. Even though I wish I remembered more about what happened in Ghost House, but I don't really want to go back and reread it. I should have prepped for this, I know, but I didn't. Yeah, that is all the books I have fallen in love with in the last couple years due to this challenge. And it's just so sad because I look forward to this challenge every year, because I do find at least one book I fall in love with every single year that I had been putting off forever. And I just feel like the last 2 years I haven't really been doing this challenge justice as I have been over the last couple of years. Though, to be completely honest, I can't be too mad at myself about it, because my life has drastically been a fucked up roller coaster for the last 3 years. So I can't be too upset at myself that my challenges aren't going the way they are, though I wish they did, because it would be great if I fell in love with another book. I have not fallen in love with a book that I've read this year so far, so hopefully I can finish this challenge in November and find one book that I really liked this year at least. So yeah, those are my hopes for this year. That is it for now, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, start a conversation with me. I would love to talk to you guys about books, because I don't really have that many friends that talk about books. So yeah. If there are any books that you had fallen in love with in October, or any books that you plan on reading this October, even though October is almost done, I would love to know what they are. I would love to know any suggestions that you would have, or any recommendations, anything that's not too scary. Like, I know I've had my eye on Stalking Jack the Ripper, but I heard it was really gory and stuff, so I've stayed away from it. So not, you know, anything super scary or spooky or anything. That is it for this video, and I hope to see you guys next time. Until then, bye!